Good morning, good afternoon to everyone that's joined our webinar today. I'm Robbie. I'm the managing director of Matavis, and in this webinar, we're going to introduce to everyone on the call the concept of a headless WordPress. And what we're going to cover is the following. So, what does actually headless mean? Crucially, why should you marketers actually care about going down the headless route? What are the trade-offs, the cons of going down this route, and actually demonstrate some real-world examples to everyone so you can see it in action, when you should consider it within your business, and then we've got a Q&A as well. So for anyone that's on the call, if you've got any pertinent questions, please DM Lauren or put them into the chat of this Zoom, and then Lauren will read them out at the end, and I will answer them as best I possibly can. So we put this in the invite and all of the marketing collateral, but I promise that we'll try to keep this in as plain English as we possibly can. I put ish in there just because it is a tech product going down the headless route, and I am a dev by trade. So I will try to avoid keeping all the technical jargon at bay and just keep it in plain English. Okay. So, quick introduction about me. As I mentioned before, my name's Robbie. I'm the managing director at Matavis. I've always been in web development ever since I graduated from university with a computer science degree all the way back in 2008. My first web app that I published as part of my dissertation, which did go to the public, was a Google Map mashup. And this is the first time I experienced a front end and a database with a load of data, and then connecting the two together. And what I did was I took the immigration data of the UK within the EU back then, before it was politically charged as it is now, and mapped that on a Google map so people could see how many people were leaving the UK and coming into the UK and also leaving the UK on a map. So that's how I first got my exposure to front end and back end development. I've had a background in .NET, React.js, which is what most headless WordPress websites are used, and of course PHP, which is the core fundamental programming language of WordPress. The first time I used headless WordPress in an actual live capacity was I developed the Happy Hours app in Dubai. So I was helping people find cheap bar deals, ladies' nights, brunches, all of that kind of stuff in Dubai. I had all the data held in the WordPress, and I used the API to publish it not only on a web app, but also on a mobile app that was on the Android as well. And I got that to about 10,000 monthly active users pre-COVID, before everything shut down. And yeah, I used a complete headless WordPress setup for that. So since I've been running the agency of early 2020 and throughout, we've always been championing the benefits and the power of a headless WordPress setup. So that's how the agency has formed and evolved ever since then. So how are WordPress websites set up today, and crucially, what are the challenges of owning a website in the traditional manner? So most websites, or traditional WordPress websites as we call them, the CMS, which is where you log in and you add your blog post, you add your pages, that and the front end, which is what you see in the browser, they're tightly coupled together as one single system. Now, this was a PHP thing, because that was a PHP thing, and so everything has to be sat on one single server. And no matter whether you update the back end or whether you want to present some information, a blog post, a page on the front end, it all sits on one server. Now, the challenges with a traditional WordPress website is that it becomes very hard to integrate or add third-party systems. So if, for example, you use HubSpot, Salesforce, any other sort of CRM or back-end system, it becomes very difficult to move that data or sync that data from the two locations onto your website. So what you end up having to do is then install plugins or use third-party apps to give you that data or to launch that campaign or do whatever you want to do. And then you end up having a real bloat of third-party plugins, which most websites or businesses rarely use the full functionality. They just want a single bit from that plugin, but they have to install the full plugin, and that uses resources, server power, etc. Or you end up going, well, I don't want to install that plugin. I'll go to lead pages or I'll go to Unbounce. And again, what happens is that you try to style or keep your brand consistent on your current website to this plugin or third-party platform, but it just doesn't work and it becomes very fragmented. It doesn't look right. It's difficult. The two systems don't talk to each other. And so you end up just having this fragmented marketing system that you would ideally want in one single place, but you're just not able to. Now, because everything is held on one single server, all the plugins, all the front end, all of your content, all of your videos, etc., that tends to lead to quite poor performance from a speed perspective. And I'll go into speed in a little bit later, but more often than not, it's very difficult for traditional WordPress websites to load extremely fast, unless, of course, you attach a load of third-party infrastructure like a CDN, or you have to massively upgrade your servers in order to get that really fast performance. And we know as marketeers in the digital world, the slower your website, the less people have the patience nowadays, and therefore you're more likely to lose that hard-earned or that paid-for traffic that you're driving to your site. And security concerns. Because we're installing more and more plugins, we've got to keep them up to date. But unfortunately, not all of the plugins are particularly well maintained. And a report that was issued by Scuri last year found that at least 500,000 websites were hacked just in 2024. And that's the ones that they're aware of, that wherever they got their data from. So if you have a chief information security officer or data protection people, they tend to want to avoid marketeers keeping WordPress because, unfortunately, of these security concerns. So that's the current one. That's the current traditional WordPress website. Now, what is the dream outcome for marketeers? And this is the same within our business and every other business that I speak to or advise them on when it comes to their marketing and from their website. Well, first of all, we want a website that's just easy to update. If you want to update a new blog, if you want to make those changes to the homepage, if you want to create a new landing page, it's just got to be really easy to do and just no hassle. We all use ChatGPT. We try to avoid admitting that we use ChatGPT with our marketing collateral, but we all know that we use it. And at the moment, most people will fire it, OpenAI up. They'll train it, teach it, and it's a real manual copy and paste for the content that we create in ChatGPT to put it into a website. Wouldn't it be great if we could just do all of the heavy lifting, all the training of the models, creation of the content, all in one single CMS, and we know it's consistent for our particular campaign or for our company? And that leads on to personalization. So again, we all know that that we get a much higher conversion rate if we can personalize the content to our particular audience. Now, I'm sure you guys within your business, similar to us, we serve many ICPs or customer avatars. And so it's almost impossible to personalize absolutely every single bit of marketing collateral quickly and at the speed that we need to. So wouldn't it be great if we could just literally press some buttons, launch pages really quickly, personalize it to our ICP or avatar, and then we can then send it to them straight away. And then the performance and conversion. Again, the whole point of owning a website is that it makes our business money. It's an asset to our business. And every pound or dollar that we put into our marketing collateral, we want at least 3, 4, 5x that in return as for our sales team and for our top line revenue. So that these are the dream outcomes. And obviously what this webinar is led to is why we believe a headless WordPress setup achieves all of these, is the best way of achieving all of these outcomes for your business. So what is a headless WordPress? Well, mentioned before, a traditional site with the CMS and the front end is tightly coupled together, but a headless WordPress is that we separate everything. So the CMS is held on one server, and we remove the front end layer from it completely, which is obviously what the users see in the browser. And then we can attach any front ends that we want. So whether that may be your website, that may be a mobile app, which is the case that I had with Happy Hours in Dubai. It could even be a chatbot, an AI chatbot. Wouldn't it be great if we could train the chatbot based on all of our blog articles and all of our landing pages and display that on our website somehow? So, and then what we do is that we connect these different front ends through a connector called an API level, which sits in the middle between the CMS and the front end. And that just means that you only ever need to go to one CMS to publish data, update it, and create it as well. So to simplify that, the analogy that I use is, imagine if you owned a really, really good restaurant and you were the head chef. You've got amazing ingredients. You've got all of these incredible tools at your disposal, but your customer, you want to sell all of these amazing dishes that you prepare, but you don't have the capacity or the management to have chefs in loads of different restaurants or loads of different food outlets. So imagine this scenario. Imagine if you could have a set of delivery drivers, okay, which takes your content and all of your data, and then it delivers it to the different outlets where your customers are. So, for example, your website could be your restaurant, as I mentioned before. The AI chatbot could be your delivering your dishes to your customers at their address, at their home. Or it could be through a mobile app or food trucker at a festival. And it just means that you don't need to invest in multiple resources in order to deliver and send this content. So that sounds all great, but what are the changes that you would have to make as a website owner? Well, the first of all is if you run a WordPress site at the moment and you use a tool like Elementor or Divi or WP Bakery, unfortunately, that means that has to go, because all of the front end changes, the designs, the creation of pages and what have you, that all gets taken away and that gets moved to a developer or a coder that has to do that. Now, some people won't like this, because especially if they just a single person in a single business and they're fully trained on Elementor or the page builder, then that will go. You have to rely on your developers. But for some people, they don't like Elementor or they don't like Divi, and actually they just don't like the fact they have to drag and drop and that it causes inconsistencies within the design of the pages. It's quite slow to do, especially if you're duplicating or replicating pages. So actually removing these page builders can be a blessing in disguise. And so what happens when you go down the headless approach is that you go back to the old school of how it was in the early 2000s. So you have a page and you simply just have a bunch of fields where you insert the content. So this is from the Metaverse CMS. This is the questions page that we've got. And as you can see here, this is our hero section header. This is the body text here. And that's it. And then underneath that, we've got all the questions and answers that we ask. And if you just simply want to add a new section or what we call a component to that page, you just simply add a row. You select the predefined components or sections that you want to add. You press it and away you go. And I've actually got a demo of this in the next slide. So the advantages for getting rid of your page builder is that it actually becomes the quickest way to update your website. and also publish new content. And again, I'll show you in a sec what that means. Crucially, there's no need to train up new users. So if you have a large marketing team and you want to update your site, then some people may be really familiar with Divi, but not with Elementor, and vice versa. As you saw in the previous screen, if you literally just got text boxes that you need to update, the training required is very, very minimal. So that gives complete freedom and flexibility to the marketing team, no matter who comes on board, in-house, contractors, to be able to update and publish new content on your site. There's also foolproof backup as well. So every single bit of change that you make in the CMS and that gets published, a new version gets stored on for the front end website. Again, I don't have a demo for this, but I can show anyone that's interested. And if you make a mistake on a traditional site and it can't be repaired for whatever reason, you then have to, first of all, end up panicking. But two, you have to then call your developers, your website team to then roll back your changes. And that may have been taken yesterday or 4 hours ago or what have you. Whereas in a headless setup, you can literally roll back instantaneously, but also you can roll back to the previous full stop that you made. It's very, very granular, and that rollback is instantaneous as well. So it just means that you can take a few risks, and if someone does mess up in whatever capacity, it's very, very simple to avert any crisis that may form within your website. But crucially, it maintains the consistency of styling, because you take away the styling from the user in the CMS, and all you're doing is just updating the copy, the images, maybe the buttons or the links, and all of the styling is consistent in the front end, the coded bit. And so every time you add a new section, it's going to maintain that branding and that styling of your website. So you don't have things that look completely lopsided, which can be quite an issue in the likes of the Elementals of this world. So here's a quick demo. It's just literally one or 2 minutes. So this is me in our pages section of the CMS. I'm writing a test page, and I'm adding a new section. So I'm adding a header here. And again, I'm just writing the hero section heading on here. Below that, I'm adding the body text. And again, I don't need to do any styling. I don't need to add colors or anything like that, because that's all done. I'm adding the link to the call to action buttons in there. Adding the appropriate images for that section. So we've got heading on the left, image on the right, fairly bog standard. Again, I don't need to do any resizing. I don't need to do any previewing or anything like that, because it's all done in the front end really quick. This next section that sits below that, we've got predefined background colors. Again, I'll just choose the one that I want, select the image, put a little small heading, add the headline for that section, bit of body text underneath, and that's it. And then obviously I've saved the draft, but obviously I would publish it if I was happy with that. And that's it. And that's a complete page done in under 1.5 minutes of just those things. And if you're ever familiar with the page builders or anything like that, or if you've got managing your own website, I can always guarantee that it would take a much longer to create a new page and all the things that you want from it. So why should you guys as marketers, as I should say, actually care about this? Well, if you've ever brought in a conversion rate optimization specialist or company in, or if you're familiar with this yourself, we know that a 1 second delay in load speeds of your website creates at least a 7% reduction of conversions, or even people just leaving that website. Now, it becomes even more, that curve of the delay becomes even more exponential when it goes beyond 3 to 4 seconds. So if, for example, your website takes 5 seconds to load, or a page takes 5 seconds to load, on average, you will lose 60% of your traffic. Now, if you're driving traffic through paid search, i.e. Google Ads, or paid media like Facebook or Instagram, then you are wasting 60% of that money to just attract that traffic by having a very poor loading or poor performing website. So going down, taking the headless approach, you would at least expect to see a 3x performance. So the reason why we say 3x is because most headless websites load within 1 second, and most websites load within that 3 to 5 seconds. And how it does that is, again, traditional websites, you've got the website on one server in one location. Because we're able to split the actual website that people actually access, we deploy it on one server, say in London, and then it takes replicas of that site across multiple locations across the globe, or even within that particular country. And so that users are only ever having to access the nearest server to them in their city or their country. And so that just means a massive performance boost, great user experience, but crucially from an SEO perspective, you get massive improvements in your rankings, because Google's not having to waste resources to load your website. So you'll automatically see rankings increase from there. And that's what this slide leads into. So Google say that your website, to be deemed as good, should load within under 2.5 seconds. Anything above that, it needs improvement, or even if it loads more than 4 seconds, it's deemed as poor. And this largest contentful paint is a huge ranking factor for your website from an SEO perspective. The first input delay, this means that your website has to respond 100 milliseconds. So from an SEO perspective, obviously customers or users don't care about whether you load a website, whether your website initially loads within 100 milliseconds or 300 milliseconds, but it does actually matter from a Google perspective, because their servers are that servers that crawl your website, that analyze and judge your website SEO rankings, is either in the Netherlands, it's in the US, or other parts of the world. So what they do is they crawl your website. If it's crawling it from the Los Angeles, for example, or San Fran, and it's finding it in the UK, and it's taking more than 300 milliseconds to say that yes, this is a live website, Google actually just passes you by and will just not index your site or spend the time that it needs to get the really high rankings to understand whether your site is actually deemed relevant to the keywords that you want to type in there. So that's why it's really, really key to have your website dotted around multiple servers if you are planning to do any SEO campaigns, or if that's an important part of your marketing. And then the cumulative layout shift, again, because it's a static website, so it doesn't move, it doesn't constantly receive data from the server. It just means that once the page loads, it doesn't shift about constantly, and that's where we that's where we get an increased performance of the from the SEO, but also a really good user experience as well. And crucially, I said this at the start, the number of pages, the number of apps that marketeers use to launch their campaigns or to test individual lead magnets or whatever it may be, is just starting to explode. So more often than not, most marketing departments will use something like Unbounce just to test a campaign for a landing page, or they'll use something like Score App to create a quiz. And again, most of it is very inconsistent from a styling perspective, but it's also just very difficult to manage all of these different tools. So again, from a headless perspective, you have the ability to just remove and eliminate all of these third-party tools, keep it all in under one roof, and then it's just so much easier to manage, so much easier to report on, so much easier to add all of your Google Analytics, and obviously integrate it with all of your CRM systems or whatever third-party systems that you have for your marketing efforts. And crucially, it gives you maximum flexibility and personalization for your site as well. So the first thing that we can do is very easily create templates for different campaigns. So on the left-hand side here, we've got Google Ad pages. Now, we've got the ability to sync up our Google Ad pages with ChatGPT to say, create me a Google Ad landing page for headless WordPress, the keyword headless WordPress developer. Sends it back, sends it over to ChatGPT with our tone of voice and all of our teachings of what we do in ChatGPT and AI, and then fires it back into our CMS, and then we can just publish it straight away, and then we can duplicate that as well. So it makes it very, very powerful to create those landing pages. And if you ever run Google Ad campaigns, if you can create personalized landing pages for each of those keywords, not only will that significantly reduce your Google Ad spend, your cost per click, but it will also increase the conversions for your landing pages as well, for the stuff that we mentioned at the start, where if you can write a landing page specifically to every single person individually, then you know that you'll get a better conversion rate as well. And also it just means that you're able to A/B test stuff as well. So again, if you can spin up a landing page really quickly and you can personalize it quickly, you can say, right, let's try this landing page for 50% of our traffic and the other 50% for this bit of traffic, and then we can see which works out best in terms of conversions or engagement or whatever it is. And the last thing as well, and I've mentioned it a few times in this, is that if you operate a headless approach and integrate APIs directly from the CMS and also from your front end, connecting HubSpot, Salesforce, it just becomes so much easier and so much smoother, not only for you to manage everything, but for the users as well, because you're not having to wait for systems to relay back and forth. So whilst all this sounds great, and obviously we're a big advocate of going down the headless route, there are inevitably some trade-offs that you'll have to make to go to invest in this bit. And the first thing is that developers are required. So if you've used Elementor before, yes, there is some training required, but very little developer or coding knowledge is actually needed to operate those. Whereas the CMS is very easy to operate and manage, but to create that front end, you need code, and obviously we all know what code looks like on the right hand side. So that means that the initial setup requires more time. So whereas you could do a small site in a couple of days or maybe a week or so using the page builders, you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks to set up a basic brochure website, and that's just because it needs testing, it just needs evaluating, and you need to get a developer to manually write all this. Now, a lot of this is being expedited by AI, and we're using AI tools as well to expedite projects, but it still requires that developer time to run through everything. Now, when I did the quick demo to add the new section or component to our website, you saw there that there was a drop down of all the different sections. Now, if you wanted to add a new one because for whatever reason the ones in your list weren't suitable, then you would have to ask the developer to create that. Now, it only takes an hour or so, but again, it's not something you can do yourself. So the trade-off of maintaining consistency of the styling and the branding of your website is traded off by the speed of adding new stuff as and when those come up. And crucially, there's no universal headless plugin, so you can't just say, right, I'm ready to make my WordPress website headless now. I'm just going to install a plugin. No, you need to work with a specialist that knows what they're doing, that can convert the Elementor pages into those components on the CMS, and crucially convert those into the front end on the browser side. And of course, yeah, it's not a massive trade-off because bugs will occur in WordPress plugins as well. But crucially, if you don't maintain or update code, then bugs bugs can occur. The security risks are very minimal. If you don't, unlike a plugin, if you don't update or maintain a plugin, you can get hacked quite easily. It just means that errors from a usability will occur if you don't keep it up to date. And crucially, when to avoid headless? Well, first of all, if you're building a website for your business for the first time, so if you're a startup, or if you're launching a very niche product that you're testing, or is it like a pop-up store type of product, then yeah, it just makes no sense. You may as well go on ChatGPT and it'll probably develop your site, or Wix, or whatever it is. Just avoid headless. It will just take too long. It will frustrate the hell out of you, and it just won't be appropriate for that particular use case. And likewise, if you've got a business or a website that's unproven, for example, you don't people aren't searching for your business, or they're not searching for your product, a headless website isn't going to magically transform for you to have 1,000 leads per month. It's really for those businesses that have got a proven business model, proven product, but they just don't have the platform or website to take all that demand and convert it into sales, leads, or inquiries. And then third of all, if you have literally zero SEO or Google ad requirements, either now or in the future, then again, you'll probably lose some of the core headless benefits. Speed is one, security, that minimal first input delay, and all of that kind of stuff. It's all great, and it works really, really well for SEO campaigns and Google Ads campaigns to give you that advantage over your competitors. But again, if you don't have those requirements, then you can probably find another platform that will build very beautiful websites. It may take a little bit longer to load, but if they're not finding you by Google or anything like that, then it's probably not worth investing in going down the headless route. So, real world example. So we're on course now. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So in the tech world, we say we eat our own dog food. So our website is, of course, a headless WordPress setup. So we use Gatsby on the front end, or React, as I mentioned before. And we have another app called our website carbon calculator. So you submit your website URL in there, and it will calculate how much energy is used, and crucially what the carbon emissions are used for that website. Now that's on a completely separate domain. It's got a completely different code base to develop that app, but all of the data that we use to analyze those web pages and to crucially store them so that we cache them so that people can come back to them in the future, that's all stored in WordPress. And so we literally just have one WordPress. It connects to two different websites, and we could move this website carbon calculator onto a mobile app if we wanted to, without having to manage multiple databases and multiple instances. So that's where it becomes really, really easy for us to manage and maintain. The next one is an example for commercial real estate. So they've got lots of brochure website pages. So why book viewings with them? Why use them to help find office space in London or the UK, or whatever it is? But all of the data of their offices is stored in WordPress. So rather than having to manage a separate database, SQL databases, or a third-party database, or whatever it may be, the front end for the brochure website and all of the back-end data for all of their, they've got thousands and thousands of offices, all dotted across the UK. All of that is stored in one database. And again, they've got plans to open up mobile apps and chatbots and all the rest of it. So again, it just means that it's so easy to manage and maintain the data and the source of truth of where your data is, and all of your marketing collateral and etc., and then publish it to many different avenues. So when to consider it. So if you are a business and you've got a website that's either underperforming, or you're looking at renovating it, so to speak, or giving it a refresh, and you're looking at all the different options, when is it that you should consider a headless setup? So are you currently not moving up your SEO rankings? No matter what your SEO agency does, no matter what SEMrush tools or Ahrefs tools that you use at the moment, if you're just simply not moving up the rankings and you know that you're doing everything right, then a headless website will give you that advantage for all those technical SEO reasons that I gave previously. If you're launching an app, whether that's a web app like our emissions calculator or a mobile app like my Happy Hours app in Dubai on the iOS or Android stores, then again, you don't want to have to manage multiple databases. You don't want to have to get your dev team or your developers or whatever to build another system that you've got to learn, that you've got to understand, that you've got to try and cross-pollinate data for. You just want one point to then distribute it, like that restaurant and food truck analogy. So that's where it could be really powerful. Even if you don't think you're going to do it in the immediate future, if you feel that there is potential for your business to launch an app, then absolutely go down the headless route now and really invest in that platform. Third of all, if you find it a challenge to make edits, now most website platforms that use these web page builders, if you're not familiar with them, they can look really scary when you log into them for the first time and you just want to make a simple blog edit or an image change or what have you. There's so many different screens and processes that you have to make. So if you're onboarding apprentices or trainees or new people on there, it can just really be quite intimidating for people to make those changes. And then inevitably you just avoid it. You just go, no, I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm going to fire up Unbounce or something else that's much easier. So that's where it can be really powerful. And then all the security concerns, those 500,000 websites that got hacked, WordPress websites that got hacked last year. If you have a chief information security officer or people that really care about security, they really hate WordPress. They get bombarded with this information day in, day out by all the cyber security firms that look after WordPress. And it just means that if you eliminate those plugins being made available to hackers, to people accidentally doing whatever they may do with the plugin that's on your website, it just completely allays that fear. And we speak to many companies with the chief marketing officer to say, right, this is what we want to do. The chief information security officer comes in last minute and has completely destroyed the deal until we actually mention or go through this sort of talk with him about why headless WordPress is the much more secure route, and we've never lost a deal or an opportunity with a chief information security officer once we've actually explained to him properly, and he's obviously done all of his due diligence as well. And as I said, if you just simply need better performance from your website, so if your website is loading slowly, if you just find it's really lagging on mobile, on desktop, and you just feel the need for speed from our good friends at Top Gun, then a headless website would just absolutely blow you away. Not only on the initial page load, but also when you just navigate between pages. It's just so easy. Go onto the Mataverse website, go onto all of our other customer websites, and you can just see the performance increase as well. And that can be really critical if you've gained lots of traffic and want to convert that traffic into even more leads for your sales team. And yeah, advanced integrations. So if you want to add databases for whatever reason, if you want to integrate things like Salesforce, HubSpot, go high level, all of that kind of stuff, it just makes it so easy to integrate all of that and send data from your website, from your CMS or what have you as well. So it just completely eliminates that time spent on integrating the third-party applications. So I've been speaking for 42 minutes, so hopefully still awake. But the key summary and takeaways, we say headless WordPress sites don't lose any capabilities. You just simply gain that performance and add even more flexibility to your site. Once enabled, after that initial build and that initial build is the quickest way to deploy campaigns. It really is. It's click a couple of buttons, type in a few text fields, and away you go. It's really really spectacular. But it's not for everyone. As I mentioned before, if you are a small company, if you're testing stuff, if you have an unproven website, it's not for everyone. But if you are an advanced established business with a advanced established website, but you want more from it, or your sales team are demanding more from it, it's a complete game changer, absolute game changer for you. And yeah, just think about what's your marketing outcome for your site. Is it there just to look pretty, or is it there to be a proven machine that you can impart all of your marketing knowledge and expertise and deliver the results for your business or for your sales team? And that is it. So we're going to hand over to a Q&A. Lauren, I will ask you to unmute. Have any questions come through the
Yes,
chat?
we've got about 5 questions at the
Okay,
moment.
cool. And if anyone's got any other questions from that, just put them into the chat or DM Lauren, and then we'll answer them.
Cool. Okay, so the first one is, will we need to rebuild our entire website?
Okay, so it won't be an entire site. It's classic agency responses. It depends. So if you have got all the data and it's very easy to access, and you yeah, it's very easy to access from the blog post perspective, and that all of your pages within Elementor or Divi, they're not secured, or they're not hidden away. Then what we're able to do is take a replica of all of that data and then easily convert it into advanced custom fields, or whatever your preference is for managing and storing the data in the new website. So it does depend, but generally we can take 50 to 60% of your current data from your website to transport that into your new website.
Nice. Okay. So another question we've got is, what happens to our SEO?
Well, if it's done correctly, transferring from your old site into your new site, then you'll only see a benefit, especially if it's a slow loading website. Um, yeah, loading over that 2.5 seconds, or has that first input delay of over 300 milliseconds, then it's only going to increase it. But yeah, if anyone's done an SEO migration before, everything's got to be handled really carefully. So down the headless route, that won't be the impact. You won't, if you went from traditional to headless, that won't have an impact as long as it's managed in the correct way. It'll only enhance it if you can demonstrate to Google that you've got really fast loading speeds.
Cool. I think that was a good explanation. Another question we have is,
Yeah, if anyone else got any questions around that or want to expand on that, just pop that into the chat.
cool. Can we still use plugins?
Yes, you can. But only on the content management site. So if you use a plugin for your blog articles, then that won't be impacted at all. But if you were to use plugins for the front end of your site, then yes, that you won't be able to use that, because it's a completely separate system that you build on the front end compared to on the back end.
Okay. Does headless mean no more themes?
Yes, it does. Finally. So themes were great when they first came out. But now they're just more of a hassle with themes. There are loads of vulnerabilities when it comes to themes as well. And so yes, you don't need to worry about themes. You can still have consistent layout with all of your the components that you build on the front end, but it's very adaptable now, and you just need to go to your developer or whoever's doing the front end to say, can you tweak this? Can you tweak that? But yeah, you no longer have to worry or have to mess around with themes any longer.
Okay. And our final question for the moment is more to do with the Metaverse development side of things, is
Okay.
how long does a typical project take?
So from scratch, you're looking at between 6 to 10 weeks, I would say. Yeah, 6 to 10 weeks. That's if you're starting completely from scratch. If you want a new design, if you want to make tweaks and changes and what have you, that can be done much quicker if you just literally saying, I want to take my existing website, a traditional website, and build a completely headless and complete replica of it. We can do that in a number of weeks. But yeah, typically 6 to 10 weeks, which is an average for a website project.
Nice. I think that's all our questions that we've got so far.
Okay. All right. Any more from anyone else? No?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Excellent. We'll obviously send up a follow-up recording to everyone that attended. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to message me. I am on LinkedIn under Robbie Mould. But also you can message us on our Instagram channels, Mataverse1. We're also available on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Cheers. Bye.